Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me and I hope you enjoy the show. Today I'm here with Jane Engelmann from the Unsung Heroes. Hi Jane, how are you?
I'm really good. Hi Julie.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
Can you tell me about Unsung Heroes and how they came about?
Yeah, the Unsung Heroes was an idea I had in my mind and I was playing around with it in my mind for a while. Just drawing together the domestic helper community and forming a choir. It'd been ruminating in my mind for quite a while, and I was galvanized into action when I was approached by the organizer of the then picnic in the park, who said, you know that idea you had? Well, we would like to feature that in Picnic in the Park. So I had to then really go, I don't have a choir, I don't have a song, it was just an idea. So within a few weeks, we had all of the above.
How did you gather everyone together?
I tried by using like Facebook and DB Mums and things like that, because it was based in Discovery Bay initially. And in my mind, I had anticipated the door would literally be burst, people would be running in and I'd have to have thousands of people to enroll. But, I set it for 4:00, the very first session, and by about 4:05, one person came in, and then 4:30, 2 people came in. And it was like that for a couple of weeks. And I thought, well, this is not going to work. I nearly gave it up.
That's so interesting that you nearly gave it up. And now you're getting international recognition. It's amazing.
We've made the UK papers. Around the world. It's incredible.
Tell me a little bit more about the recognition that you've had.
It spiraled really from when we finally did our very first concert at Picnic in the Park. It really generated a lot of media interest. Well, what really happened, the way it happened is that it touched a lot of people's hearts. After the first performance of I Wish I Could Kiss You Goodnight, a colleague of mine at work, Craig Hollingsworth, said the recording wasn't very good. Let's make a real recording of it. So we had all the girls up to our school and we made a really good quality recording. And then we had this other idea. What if we interviewed them and found out some of their stories? So on another day, we got a few of them together, and the idea behind the story, the interview, was going to really highlight the discrepancy between their qualifications and the fact that they're working as maids. That was a story, but what evolved was a far deeper and far emotional transcript, which neither of us were prepared for. It was quite an emotional moment because they started talking to their children on camera and saying they wish they could kiss them goodnight and telling the stories of how old they were, the children were when they left. And suddenly we had this incredible footage, which Craig Hollingsworth then edited and made a little YouTube video. And once that got out there, that was really the start of this huge project that has ended up with this film and international recognition. And so that's where it started from.
Congratulations. That's so amazing. Once the YouTube video came out, what sort of international recognition have you had? You mentioned the UK papers.
Yeah, that's the recent international recognition we've had is due to the film, The Helper. But when that little video went round, a lot of schools used it as a starting point for their different units. One school in England used it on sacrifice. They interviewed me. It went round the Philippines. There was a lot of interest, but the big media has happened subsequently with the making of the film, because from that little video, the director of the Helper film, Joanna Bowers, she saw that and she'd been thinking about making a film, a full-length documentary film about, the big story behind the helpers in Hong Kong. And she couldn't find the angle, and she saw that and she said, that's it, the mother's sacrifice, the mother's leaving their children behind. That's the angle I want to go for. So she approached me and said, would you like to be, would you be interested in being part of a film? And of course I said, yes.
Good on you.
Film, yes.
I'm ready.
Bring it on.
Tell us a little bit more about the film. Okay. It's called The Helpers.
Yes, The Helper.
The Helper,
yes.
Right.
This has been 2 or 3 years in the making, or 2 years in the making. The film initially set off to just follow the Unsung Heroes through their journey to Clockenflap, where they performed on the main stage, which was incredibly exciting. But then the other stories evolved as well. There's another story about an Indonesian domestic helper and the fact that she had a very difficult journey trying to bring her child, or have her child legalized in Hong Kong. And then the other story was a very uplifting story about another domestic helper who climbs and went up Mount Everest.
I saw that.
So the three stories interlink, and they're pretty powerful, all of them.
And so when you first did your original interviews with the domestic helpers that you were originally working with, what were some of the stories that came out?
Well, the little interview that we made at the time, one of the stories that came out, which actually resonated amongst most of them, was that their children were only 2 or 3 months old when they left them. And one lady said that when she went back after her first contract finished, to go back to see her children, she said her youngest daughter didn't know who she was. She didn't recognise her. And then there's the other story is one helper looked into the camera and started speaking to her son, and she said, I just have one message for you. Please don't forget to love me. And so, of course, we're behind the camera going,
oh, so moving.
Yeah, so moving. Just, I have one thing, just don't forget to love me.
Oh, so it's a huge sacrifice that these women make, isn't it, to leave their children in the Philippines or Indonesia and then come to Hong Kong. And both of us are single mothers.
Yes,
and as single
absolutely.
mothers, it's unimaginable, isn't it?
That's what really probably was one of my starting points for the choir. As a single mother, it was very, very tough. My children were very small when I was on my own with them, and I had a full-time job, 2 small children, and there were 2 things here. I couldn't have done it without the help of a domestic helper, without their support, their loyalty. And the other thing is, when I put my 2 children to bed and kiss them goodnight after a long day or a hard day, that precious moment when you actually put them to bed, all's well with the world, you have a glass of wine, phone your relatives in England, I've got through another day. You know, those really hard days when they're young and you're on your own. And so that's what prompted me to write the song, I Wish I Could Kiss You Goodnight, because that's a universal mother thing, or parent, not just mother, parent thing.
It is. So I didn't realise you wrote the song.
I did. I wrote the song.
Wow. And that's the signature song of the Unsung Heroes, isn't it?
Yes, it's become the signature. And they very much connected with that because it tells their story. The lyrics are talking about, are they imagining, did you wake up in the night? Did I hear you call my name? And then I wish I could kiss you goodnight.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Why do you think these women make this difficult choice to leave their children and come to work in Hong Kong?
I sometimes think they don't have a lot of choice. I think they want the best for their families. The only way that they can earn enough money is to actually leave the country. Because in my choir, I have a woman who's an engineer, civil engineer by trade. I have an accountant. I have a primary school music teacher. Somebody else has exactly the same qualifications as me, which I won't go into, but hundreds of qualifications. But the fact is that they cannot earn enough money to support their family and give them the chances that they would want their children to have, unless they actually have to go and leave them.
Can these women who have these qualifications get jobs in that field in the Philippines, but it's not well paid, or can they not even find the jobs? I
think that's twofold. I think there are limited jobs, especially for, I'm guessing here, I probably have to check my statistics here, but for women, for certainly. And secondly, the wage is not enough for them to put their children through schools and healthcare and all that kind of stuff.
So they make the tough choice to leave them and come over here and then send money back home. And they've often left their children with the grandparents? With
relatives. It's interesting because I was talking to a colleague of mine who's from the Philippines, and she has a slightly different perspective on it, because she says that is quite common for children to be brought up by an extended family, and it's not always the worst case scenario. You know, they have uncles, aunts, nieces, and they grow up in this big extended family, which, as we know, is very worthy and precious. And sometimes I wish we'd had that.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. We're missing that extended family in Hong Kong because we're expats and we've moved away from our home country. So that's interesting, isn't it, that they have that back at home for their families, but they still have to leave, which would be quite heartbreaking. Did the song come first or did the Unsung Heroes come first?
The song came first.
So you wrote the song and then you thought you'd get this choir together. You had a very slow start.
Yes, but the idea, this is kind of very much how I work. I get ideas. I kind of wake up in the night with creative ideas, and it might take years for me to actually do anything about it. So it's not probably the most effective way of working, but it happens. The song came first, and the idea was I could see them singing a song on a big stage with a slideshow behind them of pictures of all their children and families, their own photographs. While they were singing, this slideshow would be playing, and everybody, of course, would be weeping in the audience. And that's what I saw, and actually that's what happened. So that really came to fruition. But the song changed. When I first wrote the song and I took it to them, I had very much a preconceived idea that because they're in the Philippine community, you have some amazing singers, as we know. We're so used to hearing amazing Filipino singers. I thought that they would be able to take an idea and run with it, but they were quite inexperienced singers in terms of harmonies and vocals, and the song really wasn't working. And I took it home one night, sat down with a glass of red wine. It seems to be the theme here, doesn't it?
It's a whole nother podcast.
Yes, it is a whole nother podcast. Don't tell my children. And then I rewrote it, knowing them and listening to them and having built up a different kind of relationship with them in a few short weeks than I had over years as an employer-employee relationship. I rewrote the song. I recorded it myself. I'm not a great singer, but I recorded it and I played it to them the next week. I sat down and I was plugging the iPod in and the speaker wasn't working, and I finally it was working. And I turned around and I looked up and they were all crying. And so I thought, this is the song. Okay. And that became the song.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So they were the perfect audience to try it on.
They certainly were. And then when I played it to anybody else, they all started crying. So, yes, it worked.
How many people do you have in the group now?
At the most, it's over 50. And since the film has come out, which is coming out this week, I've been inundated with emails and messages on Facebook. Hello, can I join the choir? So,
what are you going to do with all those requests?
It's getting quite a snowballing to bigger than I can probably manage on my own. So I have ideas of having, Unsung Heroes DB, which I already have, Unsung Heroes Central, maybe Unsung Heroes Cyclone, but I'm going to have to get some help. But I have a big plan. My big dream is on the rugby 7 pitch, not on the outside, but on the pitch. 1,000 voices and one song. That's my plan.
Jane, you keep dreaming bigger and bigger. Good for you.
Then I'm going to have my private plane. No, that's not.
That's awesome, and that's a real possibility, isn't it?
It's not beyond the realms of possibility.
It's not.
But the way things are going, who knows?
You've got a full-time job.
Yes.
How do you balance your work life and your private life and the Unsung Heroes? How do you manage that?
It's hard, actually. I'm finding it hard. The full-time day job teaching is, as you know, very demanding, and it's not just a day job. Since so much publicity and so much interest, I am dealing with events organisation, accounting, effectively, dealing with all the different personalities in the choir. I'm the conductor, I'm the composer, I'm the piano player. I'm running the whole shebang on my own, and I'm finding it a bit, at the moment, overwhelming. So people are amazing. You ask for help, you get help. And there's a fantastic team in Discovery Bay at the moment who are looking to help me set it up as a business, but like a charity or a charitable purposes business, so that we can at least have donations, and maybe I can pay somebody to do a bit of accounting or do a bit of events organisation. Because it's got bigger than just me now. Yeah,
it does seem like you need to delegate and you need to get someone to help you manage it all. Yes. And I think it's only going to get bigger. I mean, the film was only released last night, wasn't it?
Yes, and it's sold out within 2 days. It's sold out. It's complete run, but they put another week on. Well, they're also putting on private screenings. And I know that Discovery College is doing a private screening, and I know that other companies are putting it on. Last night I met the Vice Consular of the Philippine Consulate, and he wants to organise a private screening and have us perform beforehand. Good, a useful contact, eh?
Yeah.
Just waiting for Ellen to call me.
Yeah, you're a high flyer. Shout out to Ellen. Get in touch with Jane. You can contact her through me. So what impact do you think that Unsung Heroes has had on the women themselves, being a part of this group, having this notoriety, becoming more busy and trying to balance their lives and their jobs?
Yes, because we get the problem sometimes that employers won't release them. And fair enough, if you're supposed to be at work and these events are happening. I mean, I've got 6 events coming up just before the end of November, and they're not always on a Sunday. So that is sometimes a problem. But what impact has it had on them? I would probably say you could ask them, but what I see is they feel more valued. They have a voice. They are recognized. And interestingly, I think the Unsung Heroes and the whole project sparked a wave of domestic helper awareness, even before the film. When people realized one expat is doing this, it became almost, maybe trendy is not the word, but it became the in thing to suddenly do stuff that would raise awareness for your helpers. I mean, for example, in Discovery Bay, they have a Helpers Awareness Month. Some people are offering free Zumba classes for helpers. Some people are offering free swimming lessons for helpers, and it's become a bit of a thing, whereas I don't think it was before the Unsung Heroes. So it kind of set a trend.
So you're a bit of a pioneer.
I'd like to think that I'm a bit of a trailblazer. Jane Engelmann, the trailblazer. But I mean, the wonderful thing is really has, even if 1 or 2 people it affects, and they see these ladies, as real people with jobs, lives, families, and not as maids. They have an identity and they're worthwhile, valuable people. Even if 1 or 2 people have their attitude adjusted, then it's been worthwhile.
Absolutely. That's so important. And I think to make a difference in someone else's life is so rewarding, isn't it, for yourself? Like, how has it impacted you?
The surprising impact it had on me was that it's filled my life beyond measure. And whenever I say this, it sounds corny.
That's so nice.
But it really has. When the kids left home, I was thinking, why haven't I done all these kind of things before? But as you know, when you're bringing up a family by yourself and you have a full-time job, there's not much time to get other projects done. But when the children left home, the children are adults now, there really was an empty space, an emptiness, whatever. Coming home to an empty house, no mess, unless I've left it. It's quite hard to adjust to, and realised how much my children had been the reason for everything, or, whatever, filled my life. And then the Unsung Heroes and the lovely characters within them and their personalities and their stories, they have filled, personally, a potentially very empty part of my life, but they've also given me and given as a group, a purpose, meaning. They are such generous and loyal, friendly, open-hearted people. My choir, I don't know if that's the whole race. I can't be saying that about a whole race. Obviously.
Sure.
For example, it was my birthday last year, and as it is every year, and we finished a rehearsal, and I walked out to the plaza, the famous Discovery Bay Plaza, and they'd taken over some tables and arranged a surprise party for me. And they were all there. There were banners. They'd made food. They'd bought wine. Here we go again, wine.
There's a theme here.
Yes. That's the third
That's
time.
so lovely. I'm not counting. That's so nice. That's so lovely to have that kind of recognition and that caring and that connection and, being really obviously acknowledged and thanked for what you're doing.
Yes.
In a really genuine kind of way.
It is genuine, yes. And
Isn't that lovely?
I've really become very close to some of these ladies. And at the beginning, it was very much still, I don't know whether I subconsciously put myself in the role of employer, leader, and they were still somewhat subservient and they were the employees. That kind of relationship was there for a few weeks and it shifted. And I don't know whether I was looking at it that way or but my whole perception of this community has shifted. I'm in there with them, working with them as equals. So obviously, I'm the conductor. But we're working on a project together.
Yeah, it's a team.
You haven't done the dusting there, or you're a bit late. What's your excuse today? It's none of that.
Yeah.
And so I've got a whole new community, and I see them in a completely different way than I used to.
And was there something specific that brought about that shift?
I can't think of anything specific. It just sort of hit me that we're a choir and this is not a bunch of domestic helpers. And aren't I doing a great thing for a bunch of domestic helpers, which was probably, if I have to be really honest with myself, a little bit of that was, here I am and look what I'm doing. But then the whole thing shifted and we're in it together.
That's so nice.
And I'm very grateful to them, that way round.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah.
How long have you been working with them now?
I think 3 years now.
Oh.
Almost to November it started.
It's taken a while, but you've really started to take off.
Yes, it goes in waves. We did the picnic in the park and then that was a big thing. And then the YouTube video, that was a big thing and then nothing. And then, the rehearsals were a little bit sparse and then other things happened. And then up in the Clockenflap, wow, we were on the stage with Nile Rodgers and Chic, which was the most incredible.
It was amazing.
Day.
I saw it. It was great. For the listeners out there outside of Hong Kong, Clockenflap is a massive music festival every November that has hundreds of thousands of people go and see it. So it was amazing. I was there.
We were treated like rock star royalties on that day. First of all, the ladies had their hair and makeup done and very generously donated by, if Elaine Swanson's listening, and her team and the makeup team. And then we were all put on a coach and we're taken to the performers area at Clockenflap. We were given a performers tent, hospitality tent, which had sandwiches. There were drinks. I didn't drink. Lots of wine. I didn't drink it, I swear. I just looked at it. I sniffed it, but I didn't drink it.
She's lying.
Not before.
Not till after.
Not till after,
Yeah.
That's true. And then I had a pint. We were literally, our tent was next to Chic one side, New Order the other side, and it was the most incredible, wonderful experience of my life.
So you really were hobnobbing it with the stars.
Yes, and they were hobnobbing with us.
I know, that's brilliant. Are you doing it again this year?
No, I think that was, we peaked.
Okay, right.
Nile Rodgers, music legend, came backstage or to our tent to talk to us. And he said, what a wonderful idea. Unsung Heroes, what a great idea. Who thought of that? And I'm standing next to him going, it was me.
Nice, nice.
That was like, wow.
So great. Do you feel like the Unsung Heroes promotes the bonds and connections between the women themselves? Are they making like close friendships as well?
Yes, definitely. At the beginning, when I did a Discovery Bay group, and then I added another group in Hong Kong side. Actually, on Sunday, I'd go to Hong Kong side, to Central, and do a practice there. Then I'd come back and do one in DB. When I first put the two together, they were, certainly the Discovery Bay were a little bit, well, this is our choir. Who are these people? And it was a bit of us and them thing going on, but definitely that's not an issue. And then new people turn up and they're, well, we've been practicing, and who are these new people? A little bit, but not much.
So did they start as two? You started with DB, then you went to Central, and now you've amalgamated them.
Well, I amalgamated them for the first Picnic in the Park event.
And has it stayed like that since?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So now I still try to practice between Discovery Bay or Central. Sometimes when we've got no practice spaces, because obviously I can't afford to pay for anything, we literally are out on the pier, in the streets.
That's lovely.
On Sundays,
so the passers-by and all the helpers sitting around meeting their friends.
That's that famous choir. It must be. The Unsung Heroes.
That's cool. You guys are getting famous. It's so impressive. It's so impressive. I'm so excited for you. It's brilliant.
I could not have ever anticipated it.
Do you think you'll have to give up your day job?
If this paid.
If
this paid.
Ellen.
Yes, Ellen. Or anybody out there. Then, yes, it could easily be a full-time job. And I could develop other stuff alongside, whether it was music lessons or whatever for the community. But, it's free for them. There's no funds. We don't have any funds whatsoever. We really rely on the goodwill of other people to say, use this space. Thanks to DBIS, thanks to Prime Credit for that. Island School have let us use their space, Peak School, and donations from friends when we want to buy T-shirts. We just have to rely on other people's goodwill.
It sounds like you've really generated a really amazing community spirit, which is great, isn't it?
Yes, it's been fun.
Do you get paid for any of your actual gigs? Like, is that something that you can earn from? So all your gigs at the moment are voluntary?
Yes, we perform for free. For the nature of it, the fact that they are domestic helpers is very, we couldn't pay them. That's illegal for a start.
Oh, right. Of course. I hadn't thought of that.
And the only thing we could possibly ask for is transportation expenses to cover our costs. That's all we could ask for. Nobody gets paid. We did have a donation from Discovery College when we performed with the Welsh Male Voice Choir, which we then put immediately into buying T-shirts. So that's gone. But, on a regular basis, we don't have any money. And we just literally rely on other people, or myself. I have to pay for a lot of the stuff. Or they pay for their own transportation and they really can't afford it. That's why we're looking into raising funds and establishing it as a company or a
charity is a good idea, isn't it?
Charity or something similar, that people who can tell me what to do so that we can legally have some funds to cover our costs.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good idea. And I think, the momentum's growing. So hopefully that's something that you can get going and people will donate. And, I
people
think
want to. They keep saying, how can I? And then they say, are you a registered charity? Do you have a bank account? I go, oh, no, but you can give it to me.
Yeah, I'll pop it in my pocket and I won't buy any wine. Mention number 5.
But you brought that up.
How have the Unsung Heroes been received by the Hong Kong public?
Very well. Very well. They've enjoyed going to the concerts. They have all come up to me. The feedback has been, made me cry, made me realise, how precious our children are. I can't imagine leaving the children behind. And they've enjoyed it because we don't just sing sad songs. We're increasing our repertoire now. I wrote another song called Find Your Voice, Sing Your Song, which is kind of gospel-based to try and cheer things up a bit. And that went down. We sang that at Clockenflap because we had to sing 2 songs, and the second one had to be happier, but because of copyright and licensing, it had to be an original song. So I don't know, a month before I had to write another song. So you
obviously work well under pressure.
Yes, that is how I work. It works well. But we sing some favourite numbers. We do a few folk songs from the Philippines. We also do, we're doing Proud by Heather Small. We are doing Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake. That's a good one. Brings a house down, that one. And we are currently working on Raw, Katy Perry's Raw. That one is working very well. I think it's going to be one of our good uns.
What would you say are some of the greatest personal qualities of the women that you work with?
I would say their loyalty, their friendship, perhaps above all their resilience. Because when you get to talk to them and you get to know them, they drop the happy face. You can imagine every day they have to keep the brave face on. They have to keep smiling. They have to be pleasant in their workplace, even if they aren't feeling like it. If we have a bad day, a bit like actually being a teacher, and when you're in class and you've had a bad day, you still have to smile and be nice. And I think their resilience is that they always, you could have a civil engineer who's being asked to clean the shelves because they haven't done a good enough job of cleaning shelves. And they smile, yes, ma'am. They just keep in mind that they're doing this because at the end of the month they can send some money home to their families. I think resilience, bravery, incredibly brave.
So what's next for the group on the international stage?
Well, who knows? We've got a busy few months coming up.
Is it all gigs in Hong Kong?
All gigs in Hong Kong. We were part of this ISTA festival which is the International Schools Theatre Association, and they asked us to bring the Unsung Heroes, and they built up a whole drama over the weekend around their stories. And one of the directors of the ISTA festival, a guy called Matt Baker, runs a very successful and quite famous choir in England called A Handbag of Harmonies, and they were featured in a documentary about a search for a choir. And there was a lot of synergy, even though I don't quite know what that word means, but I've heard it said.
They all come together.
I think it's a made-up word, you see, synergy. There's a lot of synergy between the Handbag of Harmonies, because they're all women, and the Unsung Heroes, and he thought it would be great to get them together. So he sent us a little kind of bit on Facebook where the Handbag of Harmonies, he calls them handbags for short, sang to us, and then we sang to them. And he was saying, wouldn't it be great if we could get together? And I was thinking, okay, UK tour. But could you imagine we wouldn't be allowed? The domestic helpers wouldn't be able to have time off work.
Well, maybe if it got funded by somebody in Hong Kong with a lot of money. Anyone out there listening, contact Jane Engelmann.
Yes, Jane Engelmann, here I am.
I guess the other option is they could come to you, the handbags.
Well, yes.
That's
probably more feasible.
They might like a little jaunt out to Hong Kong to join you girls for some sort of event. That'd be so cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah. When I first started the project, I tried to get into contact with Gareth Malone, who runs the choir BBC documentaries, where he starts choirs with, I don't know, with groups, communities such as, it could be in the workplace or it could be homeless or whatever. He did that. And I thought, well, this would be great, but I never heard back from him. And I thought, right, I'll do it on my own then.
Oh, good on you.
So I have been nicknamed the Gareth Malone of Hong Kong, which...
That's very cool. That's a bit of an honour. Yeah,
well, I think the Jane Engelmann of Hong Kong, he should be nicknamed.
Yes.
You're the Jane Engelmann of England.
That may well happen soon.
He thought of it.
You're listening to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford, and I'm talking to Jane Engelmann from the Unsung Heroes. Jane is going to tell us a story of one of the women in the choir who received some bad news. This story might be distressing to some listeners, so if you prefer not to listen, please skip ahead 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Here's Jane's story. Can you think of a story from one of the women that was most sort of moving for you or most significant? Any sort of backstory that really hit you on an emotional level?
Yes, definitely would be the story of one of our helpers, one of our choir. I said helpers, there you go. She originally, in our little video, she was talking about when she went back the first time that her youngest daughter didn't recognise her. And she just started to say she just prayed to God that one day she'd be able to take them in her arms and kiss them. And by this time she was crying. When the film came out, during the filming, she had an urgent phone call from home and that her daughter had been abused and she had to go home to this terrible situation. And that was during the filming of the choir. So she has gone, we haven't seen much of her again, and I think she just doesn't want it to be out there and known. She felt very upset at the premiere that was kind of in the film. So I think they've taken that bit out now. But that, for me, is just says everything. You know, we've got children. Imagine if something awful happened and we weren't there for them, or we'd been away and, it was with a neighbour and somebody she trusted. And the daughter's only 9, I think. It'd
be unimaginably difficult, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that story for me, especially with the first original bit when she was the one that was saying, I just pray to God that one night I take them in my arms and I can kiss them. That's all I pray. And then that she had to deal with that too. That was probably the most emotional story.
Yeah, that's understandable. And I think, something that no mother wants to hear from whatever culture. It's a universal thing that, you just never want to happen to your child. What are your hopes and dreams for the future for the Unsung Heroes? In an ideal world, what would you love to see happen?
In an ideal world, it would be great that we were an established company with our own premises, with our uniforms and everything, and that we could tour, we could practice in our premises, that we would perhaps have a guest conductor, guest composer, a proper company with all the key players in it, and that they would be given, stakeholders' rights. Like maybe we have an accountant amongst them, then they could be the accountant for the company. Maybe we have a budding lyric writer, that they would be involved in that. That it was and that they didn't have to, that they had the right and they could earn from it, like any other choir in Hong Kong, that they could have the right to earn from their endeavours. And then a world tour, of course.
Yeah,
a world tour,
of course,
in an ideal world.
Yeah, what you've done is incredible, but that dream is not possible, is it, because of Hong Kong laws? Or is it possible if you had a rich benefactor that was prepared to get you started?
Is he or she still listening out there? I don't know. And I say, like other choirs earning money. Actually, choirs don't go out and make a great deal of money. No, they don't. Maybe just to keep it going the way it is and grow, but have some key players. Give the girls more ownership of the jobs that go with it and just get out there. Maybe I go to Singapore and Dubai and Saudi and start one in every country.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Anyway, that's my rich benefactor. But if I had enough money...
Get an assistant to look after the one here and off you go and start it somewhere else. That would be great.
Yes.
See, you can have these long-term dreams.
They've got this thing called rock choir in England, and it started off just with one group in Farnham, I think, which is not far from where I come from. And now it's nationwide. And of course, the woman behind that is doing very well for herself. But then, of course, their income, they pay to join the choir. So that's the one thing that
you can't
ask them to do. It's $10.
Yeah. Which isn't going to get you, not going to get you much
not
wine.
Not going to get me to sing it on my wine. There it is. Right there. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm going to have a glass of wine after this.
It's brilliant.
I'm a bit thirsty. A bit of thirst coming on.
Okay, great. So, Jane, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about the Unsung Heroes. Congratulations on all you've accomplished. It's really amazing, and I'm looking forward to watching you on Facebook and in the media as you guys progress. It's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
It's been fun.
It's been a lot of fun. Now time for a glass of wine?
Time for a wine.
Clink, clink.
So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it. I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you. And now here is the full version of the Unsung Heroes, I Wish I Could Kiss You Goodnight.
When I lie awake at night and look up at the moon, think of you so far away and hope I'll see you soon. I will put my arms around you, I will see you smile. I would lay my head beside you, stay a little while. If I could be anywhere else than here today, I would be beside you, I would find a way. But if I had one wish, it would simply be this: I wish I could kiss you goodnight. I wish I could kiss you goodnight. Are you chasing rainbows and dancing in the rain? Are you looking for me? Thought I heard you call my name. When you wake up in the night, do you feel my loving care? Keep on smiling, moon is shining, soon I will be there. If I could be anywhere else than here today, I would be beside you, I would find a way. But if I had one wish, it would simply be this: I wish I could kiss you goodnight. I wish I could kiss you goodnight. Say goodnight to your loved ones. Don't let them fall from your dreams. If they are far, send your love on a star across the oceans. A kiss. I said, hold on tight to your loved ones. Don't let them slip from your arms. If they are far, set your love on a star across the oceans. A kiss. If I could be anywhere else than here today, I would be beside you, I would find a way. But night.